And we are live, and it is Freedom Friday. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Freedom Friday is every Friday morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern United States time. I want to thank you, let you know that I am grateful that you have allowed me to spend a portion of your Friday morning with you. And this is your weekly reminder that you shouldn't say something like, thank God it's Friday. You know why? Because you should say, thank God it's Monday. Thank God it's Tuesday. Thank God it's Wednesday. Because if you aren't grateful every single day, if you aren't thankful for every single day of the week, then something is broken in your life. You are lacking something. You're lacking freedom. You're lacking fulfillment. I know for many of you watching today, you allow Monday to ruin your Saturday and Sunday. You're so concerned about the things you didn't get done on Friday that you got to get them done when you get into the office on Monday. On Saturday morning, you're not mentally present at Johnny or Janie's recital or soccer practice because you're so focused on Monday morning and that god-awful conference call, that meeting, all the to-dos you didn't get done the week before. And I'm here to tell you every minute you spend worrying and stressing about that is a minute you are not truly living. And none of us were put here to simply take up space. We are here to truly live. And if you aren't mentally as well as physically present with your family, your friends, yourself on your weekend because you are in a shit-ass toxic job that ruins your weekend, ruins your nights, and makes you live for Fridays and nights and weekends, then something is broken and you have to fix it. Not 6 months from now, not 5 years from now, not sitting around waiting and hoping that when you're 65 years old, it will all balance out. Stop spending your life waiting and start spending it living. So that's my little intro rant for the day. Again, I want to thank you for all of you who are joining us live on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on LinkedIn. Whether you're joining us live or whether you're watching the archived version of this, I am so happy, so grateful you are here. Now, as I always do, I will urge you, I will invite you, I will implore you as you join in. Don't just be an innocent bystander. Come in, say hello. Don't be shy. Let us know your name, your city, your state, your town, your country, your continent, wherever in the world you're joining us from. Let us know your comments, your agreements, your disagreements, and also do not be shy to click the like button or click the share button. That helps us exponentially increase our message around the world, and we do have listeners and viewers around the world. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this weekly live stream, I do my little rants. We do just some discussion, some back and forth, and then I break it into 3 separate topics. One topic always has to do with team of superheroes, about building teams that are truly engaged, fulfilling, and prosperous. We also talk about branding, no BS branding. Not the branding in quotes that so many wannabe branding strategists and coaches talk about. They think it's all about the likes and the views. They think it's all about attention. They forget about a trust and authority. So we talk about branding. And then we also talk about the freedom mindset. And I want you to focus on 2 words there: freedom and mind. Because to be truly free does not depend on any politician. To be truly free does not depend upon any law. To be truly free does not depend upon any regulation. To be truly free means to be free in your mind. Because no dictator, no despot, no one, no asshole in your life, no toxic job, no toxic boss can ever take away your freedom if you have freedom of thought and if you are truly free within your mind. So we talk about those 3 topics. We're going to talk about those today. While we're sitting here, I'm going to come in and check in to see who might be joining us live. Again, as you join us live, hop in, say hello. Let us know your name, your town, your city, your continent, wherever you're joining us from in the world. One of the benefits and joys of doing these live streams is seeing the global community that we are building. So please pop in. We got Edison from New Bedford, Massachusetts. Hello, or Edson. Sorry about that. We got Jeffrey Eklund. How you doing? From the STL, St. Louis. Edson, we should drop this concept of week and weekend. It's nonsense. Time is a construct, isn't it? Time is relative. We've known that for over 100 years, and yet we still put everything in context of time, and we live for the next holiday. We live for the next weekend. You're absolutely right on, Edson. Gina, hello. Safe travels from Paris back to the US of A, back here in Charleston, South Carolina. Thanks for watching. Gerald, what's going on with Tech Systems? Yes, thank you. Thank you. Cleveland, Ohio. Thank you, everyone. Let's see. Who's joining us? If you're on LinkedIn, wherever you are, thank you for joining us. We'll check in there in a little bit. We're getting a number of hearts, likes. Please pop in. If you're on LinkedIn, I'm giving you a shout out. Pop in. Let us know your name, your town, where you're joining us from. Don't just hit the heart button, although I love that. Share. Let us know. Let us know where you're joining us from. So what do you say we talk about team of superheroes now? So I'm going to bring up a concept that may sound counterintuitive, and at first you may want to argue with me about it. And that's the notion that if you're a team leader, if you're building a team, you want to build a true team of superheroes, a team that's purposeful, productive, and prosperous. Job satisfaction should not be your goal. So I want to repeat that. If you're looking to build an effective team that's purposeful, productive, and prosperous, job satisfaction should not be your goal. Now you might be saying, what, you don't care about satisfied employees? You just want to put butts in seats? And if you've been paying attention to what I've said over the past several years, you know that team of superheroes, building a true team of superheroes, is empowering your individual team members to unleash their unique superpowers and align them with those of their teammates to achieve key outcomes in pursuit of a shared vision. That makes your employees more fulfilled. Fulfilled employees are engaged. Engaged employees are productive. And productive employees are prosperous. And you know why they're prosperous? Because those outcomes they're achieving are moving your company forward. That's where the prosperity comes in. So you may say, well, engagement and fulfillment, isn't that the same as job satisfaction? No, it's not. It's the same reason that I get a lot of curious looks when I say happiness shouldn't be the goal. Here on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever it is, I see people posting all the time, memes and GIFs. Happiness is the goal. Choose happiness. I'm not saying happiness is bad, but what I am saying is happiness should not be your goal. Fulfillment should be your goal. Fulfillment and happiness are not the same thing. For years, I was unfulfilled. I've talked about it on this show and other shows in the past. Anxiety attacks. I was prone to blue days. I don't know if it was depression or not. I don't know what the definition of that is anymore, quite honestly. My relationship suffered. I was over 50 pounds heavier than I am now. I was on prescription drugs. There were days when I was curled up in the fetal position from the guilt, the fact that I was making 7 figures and felt guilty over not being free and fulfilled. So I know what lack of fulfillment is. Now, during those years that I was unfulfilled, were there days when I was happy? You bet. There were days when I was at the park with my kids, when I was doing certain things, when I was with my wife, I was happy. But happiness can be fleeting. Fulfillment is more lasting. Likewise, if you are fulfilled, can you have sad days? Certainly. Shit happens. People get sick. People die. But happiness and fulfillment aren't the same thing. And I would submit to you that happiness is a side product of fulfillment. Happiness is a side product of fulfillment. So there's a lot of companies that can make their employees happy with a reward. Or let's take a daily or a yearly retreat to so-and-so. Or we're going to take out the company credit card and everyone's going to have a happy hour, and you look around and people are smiling. And oh my gosh, the employees are happy. They must be satisfied. And even if they pay pretty well, you ask some of the employees, are you satisfied with your paycheck? Are you satisfied with your job? Yeah. But Gallup's done a ton of research on this. Employees don't just want a paycheck anymore. Employees just don't want to be satisfied. Employees want to share in the vision and the purpose of your company. They want to feel like they are part of something bigger than themselves. They also want to feel like they're being developed, like you give a shit about their long-term development. They want to be coached. They don't just want bosses. This isn't just my opinion. This is after reams of data that Gallup is finding. I mean, folks, right now, the majority of the US workforce, 51%, is not engaged. That's what Gallup finds. They report on it in their State of the American Workplace report. 51%. Those employees are indifferent and neither like nor dislike their job. They might be satisfied on certain days, but they're not highly engaged. You know why? They're not fulfillment, and fulfillment needs to be the goal. Fulfillment in your life. Fulfillment is that sense that, yes, I wake up in the morning. I don't dread getting up. I'm excited to wake up in the morning. Shit, I'm excited every Monday morning because I know that I'm going to get to wake up and do what I was meant to do, what I was put on this earth to do. Fulfillment means you have a clear vision for your life that pairs your purpose with your impact. And being fulfilled at work means you are able to share in the vision of your company. But as I've talked about before on this program, over 40% of employees cannot agree with the statement that they know what their company stands for and what differentiates them from their customers. Almost half of employees in the United States of America clearly do not know what their company stands for. They don't know that vision. And if you can't be part of a shared vision, if you can't be part of something bigger, then I got news from you. Your employees might be satisfied, but they ain't fulfilled. And long-term, they're going to move on to a company in which they are fulfilled. Now, you may be someone who says, well, that's fine. Let them move on. I'm all about putting butts in seats and focusing on the skills of my employees. Keep doing that. Keep doing that. I know companies, I'm brought into companies and I see companies do that every day, and they confuse skills with strengths. They don't give a shit about having a shared purpose and a shared vision that their employees share in. Round pegs, square holes, and if you don't fit in that hole, move on. And what do they have? Despite the press releases they send out, despite the talks at conferences they give about their wonderful culture, they have a retention problem, and that retention problem is costing them dollars and cents. Don't confuse the fact that I talk about fulfillment with the fact that I am not a full-on free market capitalist. Let's get it straight. Fulfilled employees are engaged employees are productive employees, and productive employees are prosperous, profitable employees. When they are fulfilled as individuals, they are going to be more abundant and prosperous. And when they're fulfilled at work, they're going to help make you more profitable and prosperous. So job satisfaction should not be the goal. Creating fulfilled employees should be the goal. Now, Gallup writes in a recent article that, quote, it's true that enthusiastic and energetic employees feel better about their work and workplace, but engagement is not determined by an abstract feeling. Measuring workers' contentment or happiness levels, as well as catering to their wants, often fails to achieve the underlying goal of employee engagement, improve business outcomes. That's another way to say what I just said. Fulfillment should be the goal. When you have fulfilled employees, they look forward to coming to work. They're highly engaged. They work better with their teammates. They have more positive than negative interactions with customers and those around them. And that, my friends, creates a better culture, a better brand, and that helps your bottom line. So job satisfaction should not be the goal. And if you started off this segment by scratching your head and saying, Curt doesn't know what he talked about, I urge you to listen to it a few more times, unpack it. Think about exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, with that, let's take a little break here and see who's joining us. As you join us, please stop in and say hello. I'm going to check in here, see who's joining us. Let's check on LinkedIn here first. I see we got a number of people on YouTube joining us. Thank you. Leave a comment. Click the like. Click the share button. Who else do we got here joining us? Number of people here across the country, across the world, actually. Who do we got joining us? Oh, wow. We got 18 comments here on LinkedIn. We got Amit from London. We got Chelsea. Chelsea, where are you joining us from? Gut health coach. Gut health is Part of my life, Chelsea, part of my problems over the years have been gut health. I've been primal for about 10 years, and actually I'm fully carnivore right now. So thank you for joining us. We got New Bedford, Mass, New Jersey, Hossam, don't know how to pronounce your name. Don't hold me to it, but thank you for joining us. Gina is in Paris watching us, getting ready to come back. Stephen Riddle, Raleigh, North Carolina, just up the road, 4 hours up the road. Thank you for joining us. Joe Lemon, good morning for Pasadena. Hey, Rob, global citizen, currently in Canada. We got Mark Young, go Irish. What's going on, everyone? Cleveland, Ohio, thank you so much for joining us. And whether you are joining this live or watching the archive version, please don't hesitate to jump in, say hello, leave your name, your town, your city, your state, your continent, where in the hell you're joining us from. Do not be shy. Click the like button, click the share button. Help us multiply our reach of our message around the world. Our mission, folks, is to save the world by helping individuals fight for lives of freedom and fulfillment. That's why we talk about building a team of superheroes. Because if I can go into a company and help build a fulfilled team, that's helping those individuals. As I say, right in front of the team leaders, I don't give a shit about the company. But when a company is successful, if it's an ethical, moral company, it's creating value for human beings. If a company is truly successful and sustainable, that means they have fulfilled employees, and I am accomplishing my vision with that. I also talk about branding because so many people bounce around wasting money on a brand, and I start from the fact that a brand starts from within. So many of you want to start without logos, color schemes, likes, views, all that bullshit. And there's a lot of shysters here. I don't know if that's a bad word or not. I kind of don't care. People here on LinkedIn who would have you believe it's all about likes and views. Just pay me a few thousand a month and I'll help you get likes and views. As I like to say, I tried to deposit my likes and views at the bank. The bank wouldn't take them. And of course, we also talk about freedom mindset. Freedom starts up here. Freedom starts between your two ears. I know there's some of you, shit, I see you here on LinkedIn. I see you on Facebook getting angry day after day at the politicians. What's Trump saying? What Hillary's saying? What Nancy's saying? You know what? If you are allowing those people to make you angry and waste your time, you are not truly free. True freedom doesn't start in state capitals. It doesn't start with a government. True freedom doesn't start with laws and regulations. True freedom starts in your mind. And that's why we talk about freedom mindset. So let's talk about no BS branding, eh? Here's a simple equation. Information plus emotion equals brand recall. Tony Robbins loves to say, he'll ask people in the audience, where were you on 9/11? Does everyone remember where they were on 9/11? And everyone's hand shoots up. Yes, they remember absolutely where they were. And he says, okay, where were you on 9/10? No one raises their hand. Why do we recall where we were on 9/11 versus 9/10? And as Tony Robbins puts it, it's because that emotion is brandished in to the memory. And when you attach emotion to a memory, that's when you recall it. Because emotion is actually a chemical reaction in your body. Think about someone you're really attracted to. What happens in your body? You certainly feel it. We won't go into detail about what you feel. Think about a past traumatic event. What happens? You feel that reaction in your body, right? Your stomach drops. That's because the emotion is attached to the memory. Now, Tony uses that to make the case that information without emotion is information that doesn't get retained. Hell, we see this a lot in our schools. You lecture to kids for 8 hours a day and wonder why they don't retain it, and hell, why they don't like coming to school. But that's a topic. Maybe I'll talk about that on freedom mindset. But I want to share a story with you. So speaking of school, we homeschool our kids. We actually let them self-direct their education. But again, that's the topic of another podcast, another show. So my daughter is in a public policy debate class, and they pick it, and they have to learn to debate both sides of an issue. So she got up there, and she had asked me for pointers. And I said, listen, don't read it off a card. Know your information. Create an emotion when you know that information. It's like I always tell people, I hate using slides. Why? If you don't know your information and you can't effectively tell a story, then slides ain't going to help you. Maybe you're the person who either uses them this way or has to sit through these god-awful presentations where there's a ton of text on the slides and the person is using the slides as a script. That is a clear sign that person doesn't clearly know their information and really doesn't care about it. So I suggested that to my daughter. So she put some bullet points in it, and she really internalized the information on which she was debating. I won't even say the policy because I don't want to get into that. And she came home. I said, how did you do? She said, I did horribly. I said, why? She said, well, I had bullet points. I got up there and I talked about it. But everyone else in my class, they had a prepared statement that they read. So we started talking about it. I said, well, what did there's a teacher in the co-op. What'd your teacher say? And she said, she loved how I made points by using emotion and appealing to people's emotion. She loved how I didn't look down and just read off a card. Now, there's a couple lessons here. One is a lesson about conformity. My daughter thought she had done poorly simply because she did it differently than the other people in her class. Now, I worked in public relations advertising for 25 years, and a good portion of that time was spent working in politics. I'm a student of politics and political history. And throughout the ages, I'm not just talking the last 100 years, throughout the ages, there have been people who know their facts inside and out, who have gotten beaten like a drum in the election. Why? They were not able to connect with their audience because they knew that information. They recited that information, not retained by the audience. That's what a debate is about. Now, the elitists, the people sitting in the ivory tower, many journalists may sit back and look like that person totally lost the debate. The other person had so many more facts, bullet points, facts and statistics and all that. And yet those people are completely wrong, because when you want to move people to take action, yeah, facts are important. Facts are absolutely important. But you know what? As I said, information and facts without emotion will not lead recall. This is marketing 101, folks. Play upon that emotion, you'll sell more products. Play upon that emotion, you'll win more elections. You'll be able to move more people. So I talked about this with my daughter. She had another person in her class come up to her and say, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. This is a policy debate. You got to just recite the facts. You talk too much more about emotion. I simply told my daughter, with all due respect, that person is dead wrong. And don't let anyone ever tell you that. Facts are important. Truth is important. But emotion is absolutely important. And if you are creating a brand without including emotion in it, you will fail. Now, you may sit back and say, well, I'm the best coach, I'm the best trainer, I'm the best service provider, I have the best product in the world, and I'm communicating that to people every day. I have people who will reach out to me and say, can you take a look at my videos and tell me why they're not working? And the fact of the matter is, their videos look like hostage videos. They're sitting there, they're not smiling, they're looking at the camera, they're reciting facts. And in their mind, they're the smartest people in the world. People must be stupid not to want to buy their product. They're communicating information, but people are either tuning out, or even if they're listening to it, they're not retaining it because there's not one bit of emotion there. You hear me talk about creating your impact story. That impact story communicates your unique value to your unique customer who has a need for your unique value. You don't worry about the other 10, 15 people. You focus on that unique customer. But when you do that, you've got to create an emotional bond where that person is drawn to you. We're going to talk about this on a future episode. I want you to start becoming a magnet instead of a cannon. So many of you are a cannon of information. I'm going to vomit so much information on the world in the hopes that enough people catch that vomit and come to me. No. You have to become a magnet. And the way you do that is through emotion. Because when you communicate emotion, not only do you have a higher level of energy, a higher frequency, you can call it good vibes, others around you can sense it, and you raise their frequency, you raise their energy. That's when you are most able to connect with that impact story, and those people are more likely to cast a vote for you, take money out of their wallet and give it to you. That's when you make that true connection. It's all about emotion. Folks, sales and branding is no different than relationships with your significant other, with your kids. And my gosh, when you talk about those relationships, so many of you need to bring more emotion to those relationships too. But again, that might be a topic for freedom mindset in the future. So remember that key equation. Information plus emotion equals brand recall. Not just brand recall, it creates that true connection of energy. But I know so many of you, throughout the information, you forget about the emotion, and then you wonder why people aren't buying from you, aren't liking you, aren't paying attention to you. It's because you've forgotten about the emotion. All right, let's take a quick break. See who is joining us here. Who's joining us on Twitter? Who's joining us on LinkedIn? As you jump in, please share your name, your town, your city, your state, your continent, where in the world you're joining us from. We got a number of folks on Twitter joining us. I see people on YouTube joining us. Welcome. Facebook, hello. Wow, we got 31 comments on LinkedIn. We got folks from Europe. We got folks from across the US of A. St. Louis, Colorado, hello. Gina's in Paris. Baltimore, hello. Scott Franklin. Helen, calling us from Stockholm or joining us from Stockholm. Pasadena, hola. Here we go. Rob here, Rob up in Canada. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes, Ruhina, attaching emotions to your memory. Now that can be good or bad, right? Because so often we live in the past because we allow that trauma to overtake us because we have the memory without emotion. Dr. Joe Dispenza has a great point. When you separate, now this is for your own personal fulfillment. If you are stuck in the trauma of the past, separate the emotion from your memory. And when you do that, you have wisdom. That's how you learn and move forward. But when you're trying to communicate with other people, add emotion to that memory. It's a fine distinction. Gerald from Cleveland, hello. So thank you for joining us. And again, as you join us, whether you're joining us live or whether you are joining us in the archive version today, tomorrow, whenever, next week, please jump in, say hello, share your comments, your questions. So let's talk about some freedom mindset. Today, I want to talk about changing the world. Oh, that sounds so woo. That sounds so foo-foo. But I want to talk to it in terms of competition. Now, as I often say, I'm a free market capitalist, and I was raised that competition is great. And competition is great. I mean, when you look at economies that are performing well, hell, you look at what the only system that has brought people out of grinding poverty over the last 100, 200 years, it's free market systems. It's capitalistic systems. Now, you can disagree with me and you're going to be wrong. And we've seen a growth in prosperity around the world as totalitarian regimes have fallen. The reason I bring this up is this. Competition is good in that regard. We see prices fall due to competition. It can be good for the consumer as long as quality doesn't suffer. But I want to talk about you. I want to talk about what you are building. And I'm going to urge you right now to stop competing. If you truly want to change the world, stop competing with others. I see so many people who say, I'm competitive. That drives me forward. And really what it is low self-esteem. You're not competitive. You're simply looking over your shoulder all the time. That is not competition. That is low self-esteem. That is low self-confidence. And it is a block on your energy and it is a block on your progress forward. Stop competing if you truly want to change the world. Steve Jobs was not competing. Nokia was competing. Let's make the cheapest, smallest phone. Steve Jobs says, screw that. How about I put a computer in your hand? No one had ever done it before. Today we take for granted, now there's competition for the cheapest, smallest smartphone, blah, 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 blah. Steve Jobs was playing his own chess game. He wasn't competing against you. He wasn't competing when he said, I'm going to put 10,000 songs in your hand. People said, what? He created that reality distortion field. He changed the world not by competing, but by creating something completely new. Let's look at sports. Look at Usain Bolt. At some point, that dude was not competing with others around him. He was blowing people out of the water. At that point, he wasn't competing against others. He was looking to shatter world records. No one was even close to him. You know, Peter Thiel talks about this all the time. I think he's got a line that competition is for losers. If you want to compete and keep building a less expensive mousetrap, and maybe even a better mousetrap, you can do that, but you're not truly innovating. Now, if you want to say, I have an entirely new way to catch mice, maybe then you're innovating. I don't know. But so many people say they're competing, and what they are doing is just comparing themselves to others, and they have low self-esteem and confuse that with competition. I've known some people personally who have done that, and they're bottled up all the time with low self-esteem, constantly looking over their shoulder, and it keeps them back. It is a block on them. It prevents them from truly defining themselves by a vision of the future, and instead they are defining themselves by how tall, how short, how slow, how fast their competition is. That's not innovation. True innovation, and if you want to change the world, is creating something that's never been thought of before. Yes, at the beginning, it's scary. Yes, you may think it's risky. Yes, people around you may think you're crazy, but there's a fine line between crazy and genius. People thought Steve Jobs was crazy. Now a lot of people think he's a genius. People didn't like Albert Einstein. Everything he created was in his mind. Leonardo da Vinci had designs on a helicopter, hundreds of years before it could be built. He was playing a completely different game. He wasn't competing against you in chess. He was living his own life. He was true innovation. And a lot of people, whether it's here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever it is, talk about innovation, talk about competition. And you don't actually know what that means. Are you creating something that's never been done before? Are you living your life the way that you want to be lived, or that you want to live it, regardless of expectations of your parents, your bosses, your teachers, and society? That's when true freedom comes into play. And when you say, fuck it, I don't care if it's ever been done before, I'm going to create it out of whole cloth. When you realize that we've been given the tools by our creator to be creators, and that everything we need is right here to create. I talked about this in a recent episode. You realize that you have all the tools to build something that has never been built before. That's what human ingenuity is all about. So don't confuse competition with low self-esteem and low self-confidence. If you truly want to change the world, don't set out to compete. Set out to create something that has never been created before. That, my friends, is true innovation. Then you start competing against yourself. You start competing against the universe instead of just trying to build a cheaper smartphone or a slightly better mouse trap. Stop competing if you truly want to change the world. Listen, I want to thank you all for joining us today on Freedom Friday. Whether you're joining us on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, mark your calendars. Come back every Friday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. I'm here to wake you up. I'm here to wake myself up. As you can tell, I get passionate about this shit because my mission is to save the world by helping individuals fight for lives of freedom and fulfillment. If you like what I have to say, please come back. If you don't like what I have to say, please come back too and argue with me. I love it when that happens. Let's create some energy. But I want to thank you for joining us. I'm so very grateful, whether you're joining us live or whether you are joining us in the archive version. By the way, I want to shout out on Twitter, Tony Parajka. Talk about a guy who knows about freedom. Came to this country at a young age from communist Croatia, made a better life for himself, wealth and abundance. Was an elected official. I had the honor and pleasure of working with him. Tony, thanks so much for joining. By the way, Tony, Croatia's on our list to get to visit soon. And Rick Krenmeyer knows about freedom. He knows about freedom of thought. Check out my recent video with Rick in which he talks about freedom being the freedom to think, because if you think it, you can do it. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. My name is Curt Mercadante. This is Freedom Friday, every Friday at 9:30 a.m. Signing off. Have an awesome Friday and an awesome weekend filled with freedom and abundance.